Welcome to our Tech Bite, hosted by Ingram Micro. I'm Shweta Kalsi, the vendor business manager at Ingram Micro for AWS, leading the go-to-market strategy. Joining us today are my guest, David Brisbois, the global partner OLA leader, and John Horvath, our AWS sales manager. Today, we'll be talking about cloud adoption opportunities driven by virtualization cost. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us. I'm pretty excited to talk with you today.
Would you like to give some introduction about your roles and responsibilities at AWS?
Sure. So I sit within our migration and modernization teams, and what I'm really focused on is understanding our partners and our customers and their challenges when it comes to migrating, modernizing workloads. So I spend a lot of time with our partners. I spend a lot of time with our customers. And what I'm trying to really help them do is have an easy transition to the cloud, make it easy as possible, make sure our partners like yourself have the skill sets. And you guys by far have some of the best skill sets I've seen globally.
Thank you. John, over to you.
Yeah, I'm John Horvath. I lead cloud here at Ingram Micro Canada. Have the opportunity to manage the sales team for AWS. Came up on that team and we spent a lot of time building out the Canadian practice. Obviously, we have a global practice with AWS, around 27 different geos that we operate in. Just like Dave, I work really closely with partners and our sales team as well, really focusing on partner enablement, driving adoption of licensing assessments and migrations. Now we have a services team, bilingual in Montreal, that helps with what we're talking about today. So actually moving workloads to cloud, getting off of, let's say, legacy virtualization, and have the pleasure of working with Shweta, who's leading the strategy here in Canada.
Thank you. All right. Moving to my first question, Dave. Can you kick us off by explaining the recent changes in the software virtualization industry? How's it really impacting the customers?
Sure. So as I said, I spend a lot of time with partners and customers, and what they're telling us is that legacy software providers, database and virtualization providers are changing a lot of their licensing terms, right? They're changing what a customer can do with it. They're making it more restrictive in some ways, and they're really starting to reduce customers' choice. And I'll give you a few examples. Some recent changes from a larger virtualization partner who's predominantly has been on premise. They've changed their minimum requirement. So they've moved sort of from a 16 core to a 72 core model, meaning that the minimum purchase for a customer goes up substantially. The cost could go up substantially as well. And this leads to extra capacity. So for an enterprise organization, so you think large financial institutions, schools, this may not have a huge impact, but the smaller mid-market, these SMB customers, this could really impact them dramatically because now they're going to be paying more to do the same things that they've always done. And I don't even think that's the biggest change. So a lot of people have sort of zeroed in on this change in cores. I think the real headline is actually there's now a 20% renewal fee if you're late. Right. So what that does is it puts customers in a situation where they have to make a decision really quickly. And these decisions really impact their options in the future, right? If they lock into a contract, they lock into licensing, it sort of makes it harder for them to move to the cloud in the future. And what we really want to do is make sure customers have choice. And that's what I really like about Ingram. You guys are zeroed in on being agnostic, helping customers make the right choice, and making sure they understand all their options. So those are the major changes that I think today that a customer and a partner really needs to be aware of, is that changes to a contract could actually impact their cloud decisions in the future. And we want to make sure that collectively we're giving those customers the right information.
True that. I think I was reading an article the other day about SMB in Canada. So Canada is primarily 97% SMB.
Wow.
So the facts which you stated, it's directly going to have impact on these SMB customers. So John, from partners' perspective, what is the industry feedback? What are you hearing from our reseller partners?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. We've been able to actually have some phone calls with end customers. So our partners will bring us in sort of as this trusted advisor to help understand the current environment that the end customer has and what options are available. For SMBs, right, this is the backbone of the Canadian economy and country, and it unfortunately leaves them in a position to either make a snap decision or feel a pressure to pay more for something that maybe they don't have to. But it's that initial cloud adoption conversation that's being had right now. So feedback from the field, from partners, even end customers is really understanding how to transition into cloud, a hyperscaler like AWS, what options are available, even post migration, because now you open up the world for 200 plus services on AWS, which is really interesting. So I think the education portion of this conversation with an end customer is really important. Not only from a pricing standpoint and understanding maybe how to lift and shift an environment and funding that's available, but it's really about post migration. And those migrations can take a long time too. And I think that's the interesting thing we're finding in these conversations. End customers in the SMB space don't necessarily want to move non-critical workloads day one because that's their business and
Yeah.
that's their core. They can't survive the way an enterprise would and roll back and make changes very quickly. So they want to stage it out. In some cases, they even want to re-platform because it is a legacy application or legacy workloads. And that takes a lot of time. So I think the feedback from the field has been, we need to understand where to begin. We need to understand how long this potential migration of an end customer's technology could take. Then we have the conversation about what's the costs surround it and how do we work on a pay as you go variable type of spend model with AWS. And then what else can we do, right? Now we're outside of virtualization, we're in the cloud. What's next for us? That's been the feedback. And I think we need to really understand that end customer conversation the most.
Yeah.
Also, the risks involved. It took an end customer in the SMB space probably a few years to figure out that they wanted to go into virtualization. Might have even taken a couple of years to get there. We can't migrate in one day and be done with it, right? We also have to hold hands post migration and really ensure that all of their questions surrounding risks are answered and they feel very comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, it isn't really it's almost a gift that we've been given here, is that we can have really good conversations with our customers around something that actually impacts their business today. Making a decision on a renewal to stay on premise, that might be the right decision. And that's what I like about partners like yourself, is that you're going to have that right decision with them. But this allows us to now talk about their cloud strategy, talk about where do they actually want to get to, because it isn't about migrations, it's about modernization, it's about transferring or reimagining the way that you do business, right? Gen AI or big data lakes that allowing you to look into customers and serve them better. So I think this sort of this disruption in the industry, or this compelling event that we're seeing, is such a great opportunity for yourself and your partners to engage, show value, and at the end of the day, if they end up staying with what they have, you've had that conversation, you've let them understand their choices, and that's great. You stay as a trusted advisor. And if they actually decide, well, this is the event that's going to help me move, outstanding, right? That's great for us. And then you move them, you help modernize them, and then your managed services are absolutely fantastic to help them stay up and running in this new environment. So it is a bit of a gift. And I think it's important to get in front of our customers and talk about what's happening.
Yep. Now, talking about the gifts, I know Ingram Micro and AWS have invested in an assessment program. We have worked closely together on that program. Can you give us a little bit insight on the program? How is it helping customers and the partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've spent a lot of time together building out an assessment practice to help our customers make decisions. And I really like how you guys have approached it in the sense that your assessment, right, and you've sort of taken an AWS OLA and added your own value on top of it, which I think is awesome, right? It brings a lot of value to our partners and a customer. And as a partner or a customer, the value that this is going to deliver is it's going to help them understand their current state. What's in my environment? How do I actually use these workloads? Are they really busy on a Wednesday and not busy on a Friday, right? They're going to help them understand what's in the environment, understand their costs. And then what you guys do really well is help show them, how does this move to AWS? How would this look like on AWS? What's that TCO going to look like? How are we going to build a plan? And then you're going to have some really great conversations. So as a partner, perhaps I've been sort of selling servers and storage in the past, and I might be a little scared to sell AWS. It's something new to me, the cloud. Your team is the team that comes in right behind them with a data-led assessment. So the numbers are based on fact. You're going to make your partners look great by having these great conversations about what does their future business look like. And what I like about this is that it's totally funded, right? You guys deliver this for your partners and your customers at no cost, right? So there's a lot of value add. And as a partner, if I was a partner, I would say this is a great way to start conversations around VMware, cloud. And once again, if it's business as normal, I've looked great as a partner by giving my customers options, and there's no surprises for the customers down the line. So great way to introduce a cloud and cloud conversations is with a data-led assessment that you guys have built.
Yep, absolutely. I think, John, your team has been working on assessment strategy with the customers and the partners, right? So, what are your hearing from the partners? I know that some of them have leveraged in the past with amazing results, and they have figured out a way for a consultative selling to these end customers through these assessments.
I think at the core of an OLA or a licensing assessment, it really opens up the conversation for a partner to have with an end customer. It delivers value from day one. Even if you don't finish the assessment, you're educating the end customer about what they need to be understanding their current environment, what their costs are right now, and what that might look like in the future if they did make the decision to move to cloud. The assessments, at least what we see globally, have over a 50% conversion rate to a migration assessment. And all the data that's collected from that assessment feeds into the overall migration assessment. So we're lining up a partner or setting them up for success, really, to be able to capture everything they need, from the inventory of that end customer to move them into cloud eventually. The fact that it's fully funded and even pass through incentivization for a partner from Ingram to incentivize their own sellers to go and capture mind share of end customers is amazing. We've gone through a lot of OLA globally, and we continue to do so here in Canada. What I love about the way we deliver here, and thanks to Dave and Shweta for working through this model, we're able to deliver everything in-house and in country in Canada. So you have our services team in Montreal that reports to me on end customer phone calls with a partner who maybe is new to AWS, right? So it's kind of new for everybody on that phone call, but you can have industry experts from Ingram guiding you through that process. It's very simple, it's easy. Data collection can take anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks tops. And it's our team that's actually deploying any of the data collection with that end customer and having that conversation with the partner. And then having an actual deliverable to give the end customer to make a decision. And that's really what the conversation's about. Let's help you understand where you are right now, where you could go. And here's all the data points that you need to make that decision. By the way, AWS has funded this for everybody. Let us show you what's possible if you decided to migrate. Let's show you cost savings. Let's show you how you can innovate. And I think that's where it comes back to that SMB conversation, especially with the virtualization play right now, is this is maybe an end customer in SMB that was stuck for a while doing the same thing. They were virtualizing and they were on-prem. Now we're opening up this whole new world of cloud so that they can innovate. It's all about speed. It's all about the ability to innovate. And the cost conversation comes after the fact, because once you make that move to cloud, we're checking in on that environment. We're making sure that it's architected correctly, that you're spending and procuring cloud the way that you should be. There's cost savings to be had over time there, and we can really help educate. But everything stems from that assessment, right? Be able to understand what that environment looks like. And having guidance from professionals from Ingram is very helpful for partners. I think they really gravitate towards that. And it's something that can be scaled, right? We know that SMB space is a massive opportunity in Canada in general, especially for AWS. But you have a go-to-market solution that's repeatable, right? It's a very simple framework to work on. And you can take that to your whole sales force as a partner and really deliver for as many end customers as you'd like.
Yeah, I love this approach, because for a partner that's transitioning from transactions, oh, we're going to sell you 12 boxes, to solutions, you're making it really easy for them, right? You're getting that data to have a solution-led conversation. So this is valuable to the partner in the sense that they can now start to demonstrate to the customer, we're not a box pusher, we're a solution provider, and it's backed by your team, which is all based in Canada. So a real elbows up approach, which I like. As a Canadian, obviously, I like that approach. It's all in-house. You're probably recommending Canadian data centers in the AWS environments. All the data stays in Canada. So it's a fantastic Canadian approach. And just for a partner, I think it's just outstanding. It's a quick way to become a cloud solution provider and compete with companies that have been doing this for 5-10 years. You can get up to speed super fast with the resources that you guys are bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I think from a team standpoint, I'm very proud of how technical we are. So you get to leverage, people that were formerly part of large scale GSIs that you might not have as a small business, as a smaller partner.
Yep.
People that hold more certifications than I can count with AWS. Having that ability, right? Pick up the phone call and you can get a hold of the team and they'll guide you on that end customer call if you'd like. It's amazing, right? It's very hard to find that, even working partner to partner. So being able to tap us on the shoulder and kind of walk you through that process. And again, it is Canadian, right? AWS is by default the fastest, most redundant, most secure hyperscaler in Canada. Having data centers in Montreal and also in Calgary, that has really opened up the door for this Canadian conversation.
Yep.
And I'm seeing that shift now with the landscape and customers wanting to keep their business with a Canadian partner, with professionals that are in Canada being able to spec out a solution. That's a big deal.
It's almost like you guys have an AWS solutions practice in a box,
That's
right? Hey, you need a practice, here you
Yeah.
go. Tomorrow you guys are up and running for your downstream partners, which is just outstanding.
I think here is the fun fact. When I initially started with these assessments, a lot of our customers and partners came back that, wow, our customers were not aware of their existing environment. They didn't know how much they have over provisioned or they have purchased for next 5 years. So they didn't focus on cost savings. They didn't focus on the resources they have invested in. When we got these assessments actually really gave them the real world scenario that your TCO in cloud versus on premise is a lot better. So this has really helped partners and customers.
Yeah, we've demonstrated you guys do a good job. Like the first thing I love is when I ask a customer, like, how many servers do you have? And they say 100. All right, they don't know, right? It's just too round of a number. Maybe there's a customer out there with 100 servers, but usually 90, 107. So they don't have that visibility, right? And that can be extra cost. And then when you start looking at the applications they're running, and think about these legacy databases, right? Transactional or relational databases. A lot of these partners or customers have bought essentially enterprise edition, right? Enterprise is better and it's more expensive. And as they start to move to the cloud and the solutions you guys start to show them, significant cost savings where they can reduce their database licensing on legacy licensing by, say, 45%, right? That's sort of the savings that we're seeing, or legacy operating systems by 77%. And it's not about cost savings, right? Cost savings is obviously important, but it's not why people move to the cloud, right? They're moving to the cloud to drive agility, to drive innovation. And that's where having that conversation with the customer, understanding what are they trying to really accomplish, right? And I'll hear a lot of customers say, I want to be the Uber of this, or I want to be the Amazon of this. That's what's possible when you move to the cloud, right? It's rarely I'm looking to save money. That is a byproduct. You need to optimize. You got to make sure you're evaluating your environment consistently. Things like the well-architected framework review that you guys deliver, great ways to look at that, right? That's about the cost optimization. The cost optimization that you guys provide through Cloud Checkers, outstanding, right? But at the end of the day, it's about innovation and changing a business. I think that's what people get excited about.
It's interesting to hear that, because even with our services team here, we went through over the past couple of months building out a Gen AI driven chatbot to query, right? Just some data that we input into the cloud, and coming back to this cost savings conversation. And it's not necessarily about cost savings, it is that innovation and what can I do next. We're able to just pause that service, right? So I'll talk to my team and say, hey, I like this, I don't like that. Let's pause it for the weekend.
Yeah.
What does that mean? We're not paying for any services until the next time I say, okay, boot it up again and let's try something different. That doesn't typically happen, right? In the SMB space, I'm buying hardware or I'm spending on on-prem infrastructure. What maintains cooling costs, right?
Yeah.
The energy utilized to run that environment.
The amortization of your hardware, your software license, you've built for the high water mark,
Sure.
right?
And space, right?
Yeah,
I need
for sure.
to find where to put it, maybe in my own building or somewhere else. click of a button, I can pause AWS services or bring them back online
Yep.
and choose when I want to pay to innovate, right? And back to Shweta's point, it's almost like life. You collect a lot of things, and until you take inventory on maybe an annual basis, you don't realize what you have. And if you think about a company that's been through a 5-year, journey where they're innovating on-prem, what does that look like now? What are you paying for? There's a lot of rogue,
Yeah.
software you might have been purchasing, things run in the background or applications that are not required. Maybe the people who deployed those don't even work at the organization anymore. Cloud, we can monitor
Yep.
all the time, daily, monthly, however you like to look at it, and always take inventory and make sure we're architected in the right way.
Yeah, it reminds me of my wife's closet. She has about 137 white t-shirts that look exactly the same and they keep showing up, right? So she needs to take inventory. She needs to get Ingram in there. No, we don't need these anymore. We can reuse or recycle these, right? So
Yeah. Well, we know who's going to get the savings and who's going to get more closet space.
that's right. Now she can buy red shirts by
Yeah.
by being optimized, right?
Okay. All right. Moving to my next question. You both mentioned that cloud journey doesn't happen in one day. It takes years for partners, customers to see how applications work in cloud, right? So we have invested in a map program. AWS has invested in a map program because customers today ask this question that I have invested in the infrastructure. What will happen to my infrastructure if I move to cloud? Is there something which AWS has built in to support this journey?
Yeah, so I think when we say it takes years to move to the cloud, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think a lot of customers, and we've got some great examples of customers that have moved in 6 to 9 months, hundreds or thousands of VMs, right? So I think it's a lot faster now. And how AWS, through our premier partners like Ingram, who have access to these sort of specialized programs, such as our migration acceleration program or what we refer to as MAP, is that it is designed based on the experience of doing thousands of migrations in the past. So we've taken our best practices as AWS and we've built this program and we've trained our partners, and our partners now have access to this to help our customers. So it's essentially a three-phased approach. So it starts with a what we call map assess, which is a great continuation of your OLA or your cloud readiness assessment that you start with, because you've got a lot of that data, but let's go deeper. Like, let's start to look at the dependencies. Let's start to work with the customer to understand the training required and build centers of excellence and establish champions. But we start to build together that map assess, right? And at the end of map assess, typically we want the customer to make a decision. Yep, I'm looking to move to the cloud, or I'm not. And that next step is called mobilize, right? And in mobilize, you're going to start to build that infrastructure. And I really think this is one of the things that you guys do really well, that a partner that is not a map partner or a partner that's new to AWS learns by mistakes, is that you guys do a good job of setting up the right environment right off the bat, right? We don't want to set up our cloud for failure. So customers in the past with some of the sort of other hyper clouds, it started built in pieces. Oh, I'm going to move this application, I'm going to move this one, I'm going to move this one. And all of a sudden there's like security issues. There could be security issues, or it's not optimized because it was built like a cottage. So there's a good Canadian reference, right? Hey, we had this one room and then we added another room, then we added another room, and then we added another room, and it doesn't flow right. So with the mobilize and the way you guys approach it, you're going to build a landing zone, right? You're going to set that up. You're going to set up the security policies. You're going to plan how things are going to move, who's going to have access, right? What work groups and units should have access. So you guys do a great job of setting that up. And that comes from experience, right? And that's where a partner like yourself, Ingram, and the partners that are watching this today, this is where they can really help you, is that they've got the experience, right? You mentioned your team, XGSI, right? Those are good resources to have. So you set up that environment and mobilize, and then we move to migrate and modernize, right? And this is where we actually start to move those workloads. And Amazon's got great tools to do this. You guys have access to it, like MGM, right? You're going to start to automate that. If there are legacy virtualization, there's extra incentives. And AWS funds our partners, right? We provide funding to Ingram to build this, right? And I'm sure this is something that you guys talked about with your customers and or your partners, like how this program and how would you position, or what are the benefits that you see for our partners out there?
Yeah, I think the first thing is Ingram takes away the complexity of math, right? There's a lot of information that is assess, there's a lot of information that goes back and forth between AWS and partner like Ingram to build out a statement of work, to have technical and business validation against what we're trying to do for that end customer. So I think removing the complexity and really simplifying the program or the process is the first step. And again, we have professionals that have been through it on the global level. So setting up infrastructure in the right ways, they've done it, they've seen it, they've done it across multi-geo, not
Yeah.
just, in country in Canada. So having us to really help advise on the process is kind of key, right? Being able for us to help a partner understand the program, because ultimately we want partners to be able to migrate themselves, right?
Yep.
We want them to capture migration competency. That takes a long time. Some partners never will, and that's okay because you're augmenting through Ingram Micro to deliver for the end customer. I always like to go back to the core of math, right? And it's really about taking an end customer, moving them into cloud for the least cost possible so that they can innovate, so that
Yep.
they can spend in the right ways. And that's post migration, right? We take a lot of care after the migrate and modernize phase to ensure that posture is set up correctly, that we're re-architecting or taking a look at our architecture that we built out to make sure it's best for the end customer. So we walk partners through this process, and it's very simple, right? We go through OLA. That's a primer for the assessment. Really high conversion rate. The deliverables you give with an OLA usually shift right into the assess phase. We start to build out that business case, and we make it a very easy decision for the end customer. I'm not saying it's always a yes,
Yeah.
but you have all the facts that you need to make the best educated decision to move all workloads to cloud or to build on cloud, maybe to totally replatform, or you're staging it out. To your point, Dave, though, building this cottage, right?
Yeah.
These pieces of this puzzle, we're able to put a kind of a global architecture in place from day one so that we know months down the line, you're going to say, you know what, I want to pull in this new application. I want to develop something. We found, this legacy database that now we need to bring in. So there's provisions in place for that. So we go OLA, we move into assess. I actually love getting involved in the mobilize phase. So my team kind of brings me up to speed on what projects are running, which is fun because we engage with partners as well. The nice thing about the Ingram partner base is it's very diverse. So
Yeah.
we have
100%.
partners that are highly educated in very specific areas, or partners that can do a lot when it comes to the mobilize phase. So we will work with them and we create a statement of work together, right? So we're educating them on how to do this the next time. And then we delineate on who's doing what tasks. But it's Ingram that is quarterbacking the whole solution. So partners are able to kind of get a taste of the process or work into a migration. And then on the migrate and modernize phase, that's also fun for the end customer because now I'm starting to modernize legacy applications, really starting to play in this AWS sandbox of services, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we're deciding to go serverless for certain applications, which is totally new to everybody. Talk about cost savings, right? So we really unpack a lot of mind share with the end customer when it comes to that point. AWS funds this effort to help the end customer move to cloud, for the least cost possible. We help by providing that funding. We also bring partners in and we can help fund their efforts if they're going to take part in that journey and that work. We can scale it for them if they have enough opportunity, or we can work together with their teams to deploy. So we're a huge fan of the MAP program. We deliver it extremely well. And again, it just comes back to having a bench that you can trust, of professionals, not even in Canada, but globally as well.
Yeah.
If there's something new that we're doing for the first time, I can bring in the experts from our regional delivery centers in Brazil, in the UK, in Australia, and the US if we need the help, right? Gen AI practice in Brazil, it's amazing. We can bring their skills to Canada and leverage it, or have Canadian partners leverage it. So migration and MAP program is a huge positive for partners here in Canada. And it's really the conversation that you need to be having from day one, especially in this SMB space, right? From
Yeah.
virtualization standpoint.
What I like about the way, and I've worked with your partner, like I've worked with Ingram globally, I've spent time with them, is that you sort of meet the partner where they're at. So if a
Yes.
partner's new to the cloud, you go, hey, we'll own this whole thing. We'll walk you right from the start to the finish. And if it's a partner that's got some skills and they can do the infrastructure, like, great, you guys do this, we'll augment you here and here, or give you access to funding. So you're sort of meeting where they're at. And if you're a partner that's been database only or Gen AI only, and I don't want to deal with the infrastructure, great, we'll do that for you. So your goal is almost to get partners to be their own, right? To stand alone and work them through a maturity model, which I think is somewhat unique in the way that we're approaching these partners, is that you're training them,
Yes.
you're helping them, you're meeting them where they're at. And I think we should go to the Brazil team and maybe do an offsite
We
there,
should.
right? And it's that'd be a lot of fun, I think,
Yeah.
right?
I think you both got a very important point here, that there is still some gap in the industry in terms of knowledge, in terms of expertise. And partners and customers are really looking for a trusted advisor who can support their cloud migration journey. And John, through your professional services, you mentioned that you augment, you train these partners, you support them end to end, right?
That's correct. And I think interesting conversations over the last couple of weeks with partners who are pretty specific with what they're delivering on from an AWS standpoint. So very service specific. And one of their problems was like, hey, John, I need a new resource. Okay, but that resource is going to cost me, it was a $180,000 salary. We're here to help.
Yeah.
Right. So you have a team of people at Ingram that you can tap on the shoulder to go deliver. So it's interesting. We love enabling partners. We love helping them scale their business. But in this case, it was a partner that's really in the startup phase, right? We can help them get off the ground, and they can utilize our professional services team to do that, which is really unique, right? You're going and starting a business, but you have a partner to be able to leverage, because those are very large salaries to pay for
100%.
specific service designations and certifications, right? Especially in Canada, it's a very skilled workforce. So I'm starting to see that more, right? Smaller resellers and partners that are moving into cloud, or long-standing resellers that have never been in cloud. They don't yet know how they're going to be hiring these type of individuals, how to compensate them, or what certifications to look for, but they're able to utilize our technical services to get up to speed, right? And it just gives them a longer runway and really helps them plan their business out better. So I really like that aspect of it as well.
It's almost like you're the AWS services. You need on-demand
Yes,
infrastructure guy, and
this
then
is it.
elasticity and get them out and help them control their costs, which I think is
Yeah.
really great way to do it. And one of the things that I get asked all the time from newer partners is like, how do I become a great AWS partner? And the advice I would give them, as Dave's was, I usually say, be great at one thing, right? Like, be really good at one thing, and then use partners like yourself to do the stuff that they're great at, the infrastructure, the landing zones, and you go be great at building a database or building a Gen AI app. I think that's good advice, and you guys allow partners to do that by essentially providing that service on demand. So one of the things I think a lot of our partners are going to struggle with, especially if they're new to AWS, and this is where you guys are going to bring so much value to them, is that I think one of the core, if you were to ask Dave Rizzo, what's one of the AWS philosophies, I think choice for our customers is huge, right? See it on Amazon.com, you see it on AWS. Like, we're not trying to put everyone into one solution. We want to make sure we give them what they need. And a good example is if you are running this legacy virtualization, you're thinking about moving to the cloud, there are several ways to do this, right? Like, we can run it on EC2 and you sort of migrate it to essentially a new hypervisor. We can put them on EVS, which is our Elastic VMware service, right? Allows them to sort of know they continue doing what they're doing and understand it. And then some customers are just going to modernize. Like we talked about serverless earlier. They may just move and use that as an opportunity to modernize it. So there's a lot of choice. And I think choice is so important. And that choice could be AWS or staying on premise for our partners, right? That's your choice. And what you're going to do is make it easy for our partners and look at what's best for the customer based on what's that customer actually trying to do. And then you can do it with speed, right? We were talking about this educational customer not too long ago that had very few full-time resources. I think it was one. They had about 3,300 VM instances. There were 550 terabytes of data. in their on-premise. And I believe that was a use case where we moved them within 3 months. We had moved all the workloads super quick. So there's speed to this. And you guys help them make the right choices on what does that destination look like on a very complex environment.
I think in regards to that case, and especially services for a partner, there's 200 plus AWS services. There will continue to be more. There's probably two more since we started this
Yep.
conversation. The nice thing is, globally, we have experts for all of these things. And I know for our sales team, but definitely our services team, they're always educating themselves and certifying themselves against those type of solutions or services. So, being able to have an expert on call that understands EBS, understands EC2, any sort of database or storage, and the way that they migrate is key because they have the easy button. You just have to
Yeah.
tap into it. And then we have a point of reference, right? After these cases, there are case studies, testimonials online through Ingram Micro and through AWS that I think really help educate end customers in similar segments and build a level of comfort, right? To know, hey, if I'm going to take this leap into cloud and I've never been there before, here's a corporation that's done it or a business that's done it recently. I'm going down the same path. Is it going to be successful? Right? There's a little bit of trust built up in that case already.
Yeah, I like the services, the 200 that isn't even talked to within those services. How many
Yes.
choices? EC2, we just talked about EC2 as a great destination, and I've always seen people kind of take a lot of times our customers may take that on-premise approach of like, I better buy the best EC2 instance that I can, which is also the most expensive. And when you guys lead with data and you lead with an analysis, you'll be able to tell them that odds are you have licensing already that can give you a cheaper instance, and then you're going to give them opportunities to actually lower the cost of the instance. And that comes from experience and knowledge that you guys are bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I think we're always looking at refining, right? So we might go in with an initial evaluation or assessment, and our services team will spec out, the right specifications to move that end customer. But while migrating, maybe we can understand how to reduce that cost and what instances to pick, kind of what flavor of what service. It's like
Yep.
that infinite ice cream bar of flavors that we can really understand even on the fly, right? So you'll see native cost savings even going through the architecture of these solutions, right?
Yeah, I often think of, and this is where I date myself, and you won't understand what I'm talking about. It was my first cell phone was $59 a month until I got the bill and it was like $300 because I had no idea how it worked, right? Had someone told me how to use it properly, how to choose the right services in the right times, I would have spent $59 a month. And that's what you guys are doing.
Yes.
So you're making sure that you're optimized, you understand it before you even get there. So I think that's a fantastic service.
Well, thank you both. This brings to the end of our discussion today. And I want to leave our viewers with a question. Would you like to spend on a fancy resort where you have to order services? Or would you like to get an all-in package in a resort where, like AWS, where you don't have to pay for your services separately? Stay informed and keep adapting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shweta. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. We'll continue this in the parking lot.
That's
See you there.